Hello, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to another ENRICH in China webinar. Today's webinar is going to be focused on understanding the intellectual property landscape in China. So, my name is Mariana Marques, and I'm an international consultant at SPI, Sociedade Portuguesa de Inovação, which is the coordinator of the ENRICH in China Center. I will be talking to you very briefly about a few upcoming activities that the center is organizing and that we would like to present to you. We will have two main presentations for today. The first one is going to be focused on the services of the China IPR SME Helpdesk and will be presented by Leonardo Mosca, who is a project officer at the China Helpdesk. The second presentation is focused on intellectual property in China, giving more specific information for companies, what companies need to know, and is going to be presented by Reinout van Malenstein, who is a senior counsel at the HFG Law and Intellectual Property Office. At the end, as usual, we have the questions and answers section, which will count with our two speakers, and today also with the participation of Ms. Jing Han, who is an attorney and marketing director at the Zhilin Law Firm. So the information that I would like to share with you today about ENRICH in China. So we have currently a call for our ENRICH in China community. Our community is divided in three categories that are presented here in your screen. The external service providers, who are organizations located in China or Europe that can offer services in the area of STI in both China or Europe or in the two markets. Our soft landing zones are accredited European or Chinese business support organizations that should be based in China and that provide support services, especially focusing on soft landing and co-working spaces. The intention is that these services will help European companies to enter and penetrate in the Chinese market. For the members, these can be any organization or individual that are interested in getting informed about EU China innovation and business cooperation. So if you're interested in making part of our community in one of these three categories, we have an open call right now that is ongoing until July 31st, and you can go to our website in the link that is appearing on your screen and submit your application until July 31st, which is the deadline that is almost arriving. The community already has a substantial group of members, including the external service providers, the members itself, and the soft landing zones. And we will also take this opportunity to present to you the current soft landing zones that we have. We have 6 at the moment. They are located in Beijing, Shijiazhuang, Shanghai, Xi'an, Nanjing, and Hangzhou. They provide a series of business support services, as I already mentioned. For example, localization guidance, they have co-working spaces to offer, any legal and administrative support services, advices on laws and regulations. So if you're interested in getting to know better the Chinese market and going to China and being on location to develop your business or your research, and you have interest in one of these areas, one of these cities or regions, you can get in contact with us and we will put you through with one of our soft landing zones. You can visit our website as it's appearing on your screen, and you will find the profiles for all the soft landing zones that we currently have in the community, and we hope to be increasing this number after the call for applications that is ongoing until 31st of July. Our next topic that I would like to present to you, it's the funding forum that we are also organizing in October. We already had a first edition of the forum last year, which took place in Brussels. But this year, as we all are aware that the circumstances changed a bit, the funding forum is going to be organized online on the 20th till 22nd of October. The funding forum aims to share the latest information about funding opportunities in Europe, China, and the USA. We will also be focusing on that market. And these funding opportunities are targeted for the science and innovation area. You can visit our website that we have developed especially for the funding forum, which is fundingforum.eu, and there you can get information about the agenda of the 3 days, focusing on EU funding, national funding, and funding for startups and SMEs. These teams will be divided by the 3 days. You can also get to know a bit already our speakers and register there on the website. If you also need more information or have any question about the funding forum, you can get in contact with us and we will be very happy to inform you. So to finalize, I'm sorry, I changed the slide here. To finalize, I would like to just give you a very brief overlook of our upcoming activities that we are organizing for the fall this year. As I already mentioned, we have the Digital Funding Forum on the 20th to 22nd of October. But in September we already have 2 workshops planned. One is going to be on the 16th of September under the theme of doing business in China, showing a bit of best practices and case studies. This workshop is going to be presented by Bart Vorsten, who is the founder and owner of one of our soft landing zones. So he will be presenting based on his experience, and we will be also informing of the services that its soft landing zone can provide. On the 30th of September, the workshop will be focused on Chinese culture and business etiquette, and is going to be presented by one of our external service providers, Miss Lin Wu. And then we already also have another workshop programmed for November. This one still hasn't a fixed date, but the topic is going to be on technology transfer, and the speaker is also one of our external service providers, Mr. Peter Mogriosi, and we will be soon uploading more information on the website about this webinar. As you can see, the other 3 events already have information on our website, and the Digital Funding Forum even has its own platform. So thank you everyone for listening to me for this moment. I will now pass on the word to our first speaker of today, Mr. Leonardo Mosca. So I will be putting on his presentation now.
Hi, good morning, everyone, and good afternoon for China-based participants. Can you hear me well?
Yes, Leonardo, very, very well. You can start, please.
Turn on my camera as well. Okay, yes. I guess you can see me as well.
Yes, very well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mariana, for the introduction, and thank you, as usual, to ENRICH in China for for having us. I'm very happy to take part in the webinar and present the services of the China IPR SME Helpdesk. If you can go to the next slide. Before I start, just a very brief introduction about myself. I'm Leonardo Mosca, and I work as a project executive for the China IPR SME Helpdesk. So I'm not an IP lawyer nor an IP specialist, but I think, of course, we're covered by this webinar by Mr. Van Malenstein. I manage the project and take part in webinars and organize training workshops, etc. So for any question regarding the services of the help desk, any partnership opportunity, please feel free to send me an email to the address that I included in the slides. If we move on to the next slide. Well, what is the China IPR SME Helpdesk? So in brief, the China IPR SME Helpdesk is an initiative that was launched in 2008 by the European Commission with the aim of providing free assistance to European small and medium enterprises interested in China or already working and operating in the market. The support we provide is free of charge and is related to the protection of intellectual property in third markets. Specifically, of course, we cover China, but also other jurisdictions such as Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. Although the initiative is funded and was launched by the European Commission, we also provide free assistance to companies from other countries, specifically from the signatory countries of the COSME program, which are, among other, Turkey, Ukraine, Bosnia, Serbia, Montenegro, Iceland, etc. So we do provide assistance also to companies from those countries as well. And as I said, of course, we cover four IP jurisdictions: China, Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan. And we have experts based in all these four jurisdictions in case you need a specific consultation. Up to date, we have assisted more than 100,000 SMEs, both in Europe and European SMEs in China, of course. Moving on to the next slide. So in practice, what is it that the help desk can do for European companies? First of all, we can help maximize the value of European SMEs intellectual property asset, and of course thereby improving their competitiveness in global markets. Also, we can support in the initial context with local agencies in the target countries and jurisdictions, because we have an office in Beijing as well. So we are at disposal to help companies already present in China that would like to have a consultation there. And lastly, we are available to provide more information or support SMEs in overcoming other types of barriers, such as a very complex regulatory framework, the lack of information in English, and any other problems related really to the enforcement or protection of intellectual property for SMEs in China. Next slide, please. In brief, so how do we provide this assistance? The most direct support we have is through our inquiry helpline, which is an email address that you can find also in one of the last slides. It's an email address where companies can send an email with a question regarding the protection of their intellectual property in these four jurisdictions. Can be a very general question, can be a specific question regarding an infringement of their IP. And our IP specialists are available to reply to the query free of charge, confidentially, and within 3 working days. On top of that, we also organize training workshops or webinars with partner organizations such as chambers of commerce, clusters, or business support organizations such as ENRICH in China, for instance, where we send free of charge our lawyers, IP lawyers, and they will be addressing any specific topic related to IP protection in China. The topic, of course, will be tailor-made to address the more pressing issues among the network of our partners. So it can be, for instance, a specific webinar on IP protection for a sector like food and beverage or tech transfer, or it can also be a webinar or a training in presence on a specific intellectual property right, such as, for instance, trademark protection in Hong Kong. Yeah, that's in brief what we can offer. Of course, we're also available to have a very general presentation on IP. Like, I don't know, we had recently a webinar on the top 10 tips, IP tips to protect your innovation abroad. So we're really flexible to select the most relevant topics for our partners. For companies as well, for SMEs, we have at disposal on our website a wide variety of business guides addressing sector-specific issues or very more horizontal issues. We have also fact sheets on these 4 jurisdictions that we cover, and we have also a blog where we upload periodical developments of the IP landscape in China. Moving on to the next slide, please. We also have infographics that are downloadable and that you can distribute during your events. We have a monthly podcast and a monthly newsletter where we address, every month we address a different topic for the podcast. And newsletter, of course, it includes some IP developments in China, but also an update of our upcoming events. So feel free to subscribe on our website. We also have e-learning modules that you can find on our website as well, together with an events calendar where you can find the registration link for all our upcoming events. If you can move on to the next slide, please. In brief, because of course this will be addressed later by our next speaker. So why companies should pay attention to their intellectual property, especially in China? Well, first of all, companies often forget that intellectual property is the core asset of their business, whether it is a trademark, a patent, or an innovation that they will eventually license to a Chinese partner. And our mandate is to have SMEs, European SMEs, make strategic decision with regard to the protection of their or enforcement of their intellectual property. And of course, a better use of IP will also enhance the competitiveness of the European SMEs in third market and especially in China. And finally, showcasing a very strong IP portfolio with a solid protection framework in place will incentivize third parties to invest in your innovation, in R&D activities, or in product developments with your company. Next slide, please. I have included here just 4 examples of the type of material that you can find on our website. There are more than 30 guides I have included for here. On the top left, I have included one which is an example of a sector-specific guide. So I'm just reading it out loud. It's a guide to IPR protection in China for the food and beverage industry, but you will find many more. Also, we have guides on more horizontal issues, such as protecting your IP at trade fair. This one specifically was made jointly with the other IPRs and helpdesks that I will introduce shortly in a couple of minutes. Also, we have other guides, for example, on the comparison of the IP landscapes in China and Europe, or for instance, one which is very popular now, the guide on protecting your Chinese domain names for European companies. But again, I really invite you to browse through all the guides that we have on our website to see if there is something that really interests your company or that addresses specific topics of your product. Next slide, please. Yes, so the China IPR SME Helpdesk is only one of the 4 IPR SME Helpdesks developed by the European Commission. The other international IPR SME Helpdesks, meaning that they only focus on extra-EU markets, are the Southeast Asia IPR SME Helpdesk and the Latin America IPR SME Helpdesk. Of course, we often organize joint webinars where we cover IP protection in different regions. We sometimes have webinars with all 4 help desks, or sometimes we only have 3 help desks, of course, focusing on the internationalization of IP in Latin America, Southeast Asia, and China. And we are at disposal, of course, to have sessions with other help desks if that's interesting for a specific organization. The European IPR help desk, as you can see, doesn't have the SME mention on the name because it focuses more on the European single market, whereas the China, Southeast Asia, and Latin America IPR SME help desk, they really focus on the internationalization of your IP. And actually, they are grouped together under this framework of the International IPR SME help desk. On the next slide, I think you will see the website. Yes, so basically the China, Latin America, and Southeast Asia, they have a common landing page, online landing page, which is called IPR-hub.eu, and it's the brand of the International IPR help desks. And of course, once you go to this landing page, you will then select the specific market of interest, and you will be redirected to the China website, the Latin America website, or the Southeast Asia website. Next slide, please. Yes, here you can find the address of our inquiry helpline. It's question@china-iprhelpdesk.eu. So feel free to send any questions related to the protection of intellectual property in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or Macau to our address, and our IP specialists will reply within 3 working days, free of charge and confidentially. Moving on to the last slide, I believe. Yes, we are also active on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, where you can follow us and stay abreast of our upcoming events, new material that we publish, or new partnership that we are establishing. And of course, we also have the website that I just introduced, iprhub.eu, and we have a blog, youripinsider.eu, which is jointly developed with the Southeast Asia IPR SME help desk. So there you can find all the latest IP developments in China and Southeast Asia as well. Well, that's it from my side. I will be happy to take any questions at the end of the webinar. And thank you again to ENRICH in China for giving us the opportunity to present our services. And I'll leave the floor to Mr. van Malenstein.
Thank you very much, Leonardo. Excellent presentation, and I highly recommend everyone to use the services of the IPR help desk because they give a really good overview of how the system works in China and gives a lot of free information. So highly recommend you all to use that. Now my screen should be shared now. Okay, so now I'm going to talk you through to what it means as a company to protect your intellectual property in China. Quickly about myself. I'm senior counsel here at HFG. We're in China, specialized law firm that operates mainly on intellectual property. We're based in Shanghai, we're based in Beijing, and what we do is like make sure to register intellectual property and also like litigate where necessary and make contracts. But that's not why you're here for. You're here for what are the challenges for you as a foreign company in China. Well, there's actually many challenges, and I on this one slide have put all the main challenges here so you get a better understanding of it, and then later in the presentation we go through most of them. The biggest challenge always for like European companies is actually realizing that China has its own laws as a national country, a sovereign country. So therefore the laws by nature will resemble European laws but have certain differences, and you just need to know what those differences are. So a lot of the problems have to do with these differences, as in like the trademark classes that are divided into subclasses. A design patent in China is put under the patent law, whereas in Europe there's a whole own design rights law. So there's many differences that also see, for example, on notarization needed for evidence in China that normally would not be necessary in Europe. In order to guide you through it, we have to start with the basics of IP law, which is no registration means no protection. So if you're talking about trademarks, if you're talking about patents, if you're talking about design rights, you have to register it in China. If you don't register it in China, you have zero protection. So basic Chinese law 101 with regard to IP law, really no registration means no protection. Get your rights registered and also be the first to file, because that often in China also means, especially for trademark law, that whoever files first gets the rights. Now, Leonardo already mentioned it, some good reasons why you should have intellectual property in China. Let me take one more example to tell you what most companies also realize. They realize that ideally in China, you need to have like a baseball bat that you can start using, hitting on infringers, and that baseball bat really is IP protection. If you don't have that baseball bat, you cannot stop the infringements. And now the real problem comes once you realize that most things in the world nowadays are produced, like are made in China, which means that they will be made in China and then exported to the rest of the world. Now, if you fight all these infringements locally, that's going to cost a lot of money and you have to go through all different jurisdictions. Whereas if you want to shut down a factory or any other company that makes fake products, you can use your rights in China, if you have them registered, to take down these infringements. So therefore, it's always better to have your rights registered and take down the problem at the source. Now, when we talk about trademarks, because often when I read a newspaper, I see the newspapers mixing up trademarks, patents, copyrights. To them, they don't really have a clear view of what actually is a trademark. So just for your understanding, I put a slide here what a trademark can be. So it can be a word, it can be a color combination, it can be a logo, it can be a sound, it can be number combination. So these are all examples of what can be a trademark. So a logo, for example, is the Apple logo down under the screen. A slogan, just do it, Nike, a 3D symbol, so a 3D logo registration could be the Ferrero Rocher bonbon shape. So these are all different examples of trademarks. And a sound trademark, you can, for example, think about the MGM lion sound, like the roaring sound that you hear at the beginning of a movie. That's also protected by a trademark, also here in China. Now, with trademarks, the rule is that whoever registers a trademark first gets the trademark. Unless, and this is important for you as a company, because if you haven't registered your trademark yet, there's a high chance that someone else has already registered it. So you can still get it back in case you can prove that there's any kind of relationship between you and the person who registered it. It can be a business relationship, for example. Or if you're lucky, they have registered the logo of your company. Actually, the logo of your company has copyright protection the moment you made it. So then you can use copyright as a prior right to get your trademark back. Also, if that person has filed many other trademarks of already different existing companies, you could get it back. If your company is well known, let's say you're Nike or Coca-Cola, you have some extra protection, so you can also get it back that way. If there's bad faith, you could get it back, and also in accordance with the new trademark law, if the other person actually has no intention to use the trademark and you can prove that, you can get the trademark back. So I put here on the screen an iPhone leather bag. Actually, iPhone had a lot of trouble in China because iPhone for phone cases and leather bags was already registered by a Chinese person before Apple became, iPhone became well known in China. So just to show that big brands have difficulty with trademarks in China. Also, small companies have the same things, but if you register your trademark first, you will not have these kind of problems. So therefore, it's very important to register it as soon as possible. Now, how to file? Filing of a trademark can be done through the Chinese Trademark Office. For that, you need to have a Chinese trademark agent, or you can file it internationally. If you file it locally through a Chinese agent, it's a lot faster and you get a trademark certificate automatically. So that would be an easier way and faster way to do it. Then you really need to watch out with the classes and subclasses. So normally a trademark class can be one of 45 different classes. So there's a class for food, there's a class for milk products, there's a class for clothing. But the Chinese system has divided these classes into subclasses. So that means that dresses, jeans, t-shirts are all different subclasses. Now, that's different for Europeans because they register for the whole class and they get registration for the whole class. But in China, you actually need to be very careful about selecting the right classes and subclasses. Otherwise, you don't have protection in the end. And also, it's very important to come up with a Chinese name for your trademark. If you don't do that, then the market will make a name themselves. So that happened to Viagra, which was named Weige on the Chinese market, which is Big Brother. That was actually a problem for Viagra because Pfizer, the company who owned it, had the registration of Viagra, but not of Weige. And because of that, the market would buy the Weige products rather than the real Viagra products. So as a brand, you ideally want to control all your brands, so therefore also make a Chinese language trademark. Now, how to make a Chinese language trademark? The best trademarks are the ones that combine a sound and a meaning. And so Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola, delicious happiness is a great example of this, or Bauma, precious horse for a car, great name. Two other good ways to do it is to translate the sounds. That's, for example, what McDonald's did with McDonald, or to translate the meaning, which is what Apple did with 苹果, which literally means apple, but then in Chinese. So that's for trademarks, the important bits. Now for patents, you need to know that in China, there are 3 different types of patents. There's the invention patent, the utility model patent, and the design patent. Actually, the invention patent and utility model patent are both applicable for new, inventive, and industrially applicable inventions. So the only difference is that the invention patent, that's the same patent we have in Europe, but then there's also a utility model patent which requires less inventiveness. So anything that you might have that might not be patentable in Europe might still be getting a patent in China, but then under the utility model patent. And then there's the third type of patent, which is the design patent. That's what we call in Europe the design right. So it's important to realize that that falls under the patent law in China, and that is for new and creative designs. Now, how do you get it? Apply through a Chinese patent agent, and then you get it for 10 years, a utility model patent and a design patent, and for 20 years protection, you get the invention patent. Translation is crucial, so make sure that if you already have a patent application in your home country, that you translate it into Chinese by a Chinese patent lawyer or agent, because that's the only way that you can make sure that it's the correct claims that you're putting forward. Also, like I said before, patents need to be new. So you can't get a patent for something that is already published somewhere else in the world. That means that before your patent application, you need to make sure that your patent stays secret and safe. You apply for the Chinese patent, and after you have the receipt that you applied it for, you can then put it forward on the market, the product, or you can put forward the publication. But don't do that earlier, because otherwise you cannot have the patent right anymore. To show how serious the problem is in China, I have here an example of 2 buses. Left is a German bus, right is a Chinese bus. The Germans, they sued the Chinese bus company and they won. They said, design patent infringement, we have the design patent, you infringed us, and the court ruled, okay, Chinese company, you need to pay 21.6 million renminbi, Chinese yuan. But then the Chinese team actually sent a whole team to Germany to try to find any publication before the patent application was of this bus. And they did find it in Bus Actuel and Bus Magazine, just 1 month that was published before the application of the design patent was sent forward in China. So really, really important, because in this case, the patent got invalidated, that you keep your patent secret, you apply for it, and then after that, you are allowed to publish it or put the product on the market. And then there's the third field of IP, which we're going to discuss, which is copyright. Now, you don't have to be a J.K. Rowling or write Harry Potter in order to get copyright. Most of us, I'd say all of us, already have copyright, because copyright is the expression of an idea in a certain way. So if you talk about companies, that would mean that you have copyright on your website, on instruction manuals, on your product catalog, on photos, on software, on packaging, images, etc. So all you companies have copyright. Now, do you need to register copyright in China? The answer is no, but I highly encourage you to do register it, because if you have a copyright registration in China, it actually turns around the burden of proof. So instead of you having to prove that you have the copyright, you have the copyright once you apply for it and you get the certificate. And then the other person has to prove that you are not the copyright owner. So that's a better situation than if you would not have applied for it. But officially, copyright exists the moment the work is created. So officially, you don't need a copyright registration, but it is very handy in China to have in order to enforce your rights. Now, how to file? You can file it with the Copyright Protection Center of China. Also, when you're doing e-commerce, you find that you might have some e-commerce products that you own on e-commerce platforms, but you also might find that there's a lot of fakes of your products on Chinese e-commerce. So the EU Intelligence Customs Unit has actually seen that 82% of the postal packages containing fake goods actually come from China. So therefore, it's very important that you as a company also check the Alibaba platforms and other e-commerce platforms in China to see whether or not you have infringements there. If you do see infringements there, naturally you can do a notice and take down with the e-commerce platform based upon your registered trademark, based upon your copyright certificate. But it's also sometimes really good to hold off and wait with that notice and take down in case you think it's a big infringement, because then it would be preferable to first make a sample purchase through a law firm and a notarized notary public in order to have proof of evidence of infringement, because proof in China needs to be notarized. So normally I'm a Dutch lawyer, but normally when I'm actually like in the Netherlands doing a case, I can just take a screenshot and the court will believe that that's then a real screenshot. But in China, that's not the case. In China, a screenshot only counts as evidence if I take the screenshots with a notary public next to me. And so that's very important to realize, to have the right means of getting evidence, which is through a notary public. Another area which is not IP, but which is basically anything that could be intellectual property in the end, is trade secrets. So trade secrets are things as processes, methods, recipes, supplier lists, pricing information, customer information, materials, etc. So all of you companies would have trade secrets. The most famous trade secret is probably the Coca-Cola formula, because only Coca-Cola knows how to make Coca-Cola, and other companies have tried, but they have not achieved yet to register to make Coca-Cola. So what is a trade secret and how do you protect it? Well, you can only protect it by 3 measures. That is like physical measures, technological measures, and contractual measures. So meaning if I go to your company and I can just walk in, nobody stops me, that means there's no physical measures. If you have a receptionist and your door is locked, that means you have physical measures. So that's one way to protect your trade secrets. Then the second way that you need to do is technological measures. So that means that computers, USB sticks, etc., should be having a password on them, so you cannot easily enter them. That's technological measures. And then contractual measures are contracts between you and another company that you share a trade secret with in order to keep it secret and safe. Now, if you apply all these three things well, and someone goes away with your trade secrets, then you can get a preliminary injunction, meaning a court order, in order to stop that person from disclosing it. And that's what Eli Lilly, an American pharmaceutical company, successfully did here in Shanghai. One of the key researchers was downloading trade secrets. The IT department informed the manager confronted the researcher, and the researcher left and quit. Then, because they have had these three measures in place, they went to the court, and the court prohibited that researcher from sharing this information with anyone. So in case you have these three measures applied well, you can actually stop someone from disclosing information. But again, and I've said this before when I talked about e-commerce, the most important thing in China is getting notarized evidence in China by a Chinese notary public, because there's many ways in China that you can enforce your rights. And you can do it with the help of the government through administrative enforcement. You can do it by litigation in civil enforcement. You can do criminal prosecution. You can register your rights and enforce them with customs. And obviously, you can also negotiate. But this is all step 2 procedures. Step 1 is having the evidence of the infringement. So having the screenshot notarized, having the infringing products bought and notarized. Only if you have that step 1, then step 2 will be relatively easy and you will win your cases in China. So thank you for your time for this presentation. I believe now we will have the panel discussion, and if you have any questions, feel free to send them to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Renaud. We are now going for the questions and answers section. I would also ask Leonardo to turn on his camera. I will be on my screen here. Okay. We also have Miss Jing Han, as I mentioned, is going to be also with us for the questions and answers section. I will encourage again our attendees to check your GoToWebinar settings panel, and you should have a little box that says questions, and you can write there any question that you would like to pose to our the speakers of today. So we already have a few questions. Let me open them here so we can start sharing them with our speakers. So we have here a first one from Mr. Algimantas Casas. He's asking how IP are enforced in China. A percent of success versus failure with help of Chinese government? I don't know if you...
I wouldn't, I'd say like this. That's a very, very vague question. It's a good question, but I say like, let's put it like this. If you get that step 1 right, so you have the right evidence, then the answer is, would I be able to enforce my rights in China? Should not be difficult, because if you go to the right courts, meaning like Beijing, Shanghai, or Guangzhou, we don't see like much weird decisions where we really can't follow any legal justification. So step 1, register your rights. Step 2, in case of infringement, get your evidence notarized. Then step 3, having a successful enforcement should not be the problem.
Okay, thank you. We have here another participant asking for the slides of the webinar. I would like to confirm with both of our speakers if it would be okay to share the slides. If not, we always send a follow-up email to our attendees, and they can watch the recording of the webinar, and they can have access to the information shared on the recording. We have another question. How do you assess the overall trend on IPR infringement in China today? How do firms enforce their rights in case of infringements? From Mr. Insi Akes.
I say it's proven through the years that IP enforcement is getting better and better in China. Leonardo, would you like to add something to that?
No, I'm sure you, of course, know better than me, but yeah, the trend we have witnessed is the same. So they are working on a better enforcement framework, and as you are working there, you can confirm, of course, from a professional point of view.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you both for your insights on this question. We have another question from Mr. Algimantas Casas. He's asking how protection is enforced, and I think he's asking for examples. If you...
Well, the examples are many, so it depends what rights. Like in one of my last slides, I was saying that like you can enforce your intellectual property rights through administrative means. So that means that you go to the local government if it's in let's say the local trademark office in case your trademark is being infringed, and you can ask them for help to basically, if it's for example a factory, to do a raid on the factory to confiscate the goods, and then also to actually get rid of the goods. So demolish, get the goods demolished. Okay. For example, with trademarks, it's also possible to do it through litigation, and then when you do litigate, you go to court, and then you basically claim to the court based upon your infringement evidence that your trademark has been infringed, and then the court will make a ruling for compensation and a ruling for the infringer to stop the infringement. If it's a very serious infringement, also the People's Procuratorate could help for criminal cases. So that's another way where you can work together with the criminal enforcement authorities to get a factory closed down or arrest certain individuals and even get them to prison. And then there's the way through customs, where you can register your trademark with customs, and then customs can inform you if infringing goods go inside or outside of China, that there's actually a possible package or container or a whole ship that is infringing, and they ask you, do you want to have these goods detained? And then you can pay customs a certain bond to detain the goods, and then start an infringement procedure against that company. So there's many examples, many ways and many examples to successfully defend your IP rights and enforce them in China.
Thank you for your answer. We have another question that I think it goes a bit in line with what you already replied. It's asking about the mean to start to report an infringement. This person asks if they should go to the court, or if there is another institution that they should go to report.
Well, it depends on what you want. Like if you want to have a short-term quick fix to your problem, then no matter what you do, step one should always be notarize the infringement with a Chinese notary public. Then step two, if you want to have a very quick fix to your problem, is like, okay, go to the local authorities, local trademark bureau, let's say, to like report this and ask the authorities to raid the factory and tell them to not do this again. It's a very short, quick fix. But at the same time, if you want to have a long-term solution to the problem, that is really like going to court. So still step one is the same, get your evidence notarized, and then step two, go to a law firm, make a case against this infringer, and then start the case. Because if you do that, then there is a long-term solution in the sense that in the end you will get a court judgment saying that this person and company cannot infringe upon your rights. You get compensation, so you will be compensated for your losses, and you can enforce this judgment again against someone if they infringe again, in order to make sure that it actually stops. So for China, that would be the preferred path to start a court case. And then there's obviously the even quicker fix if there's just an online infringement, let's say on Alibaba platform, where you can just notify Alibaba of the infringement, show your trademark rights, and then Alibaba should take down the infringement from the internet. So that's the quickest actually to do. But then there's obviously the chance that that same person will open up another shop on Alibaba or someone else, and then you have to do it again. So if you want to make sure that this person has to pay compensation to you, then a court case is the only way. And if you do the administrative case, then you cannot get compensation. So they can do raids, they can take down a factory, but only for a certain amount of time, and then the infringement could occur again.
Thank you. We have here a question from Jing Han. It's a bit long. I will try to read everything. Lots of companies are reluctant to file patents in China because their knowledge will be disclosed. They prefer to keep it as a know-how and protect it with NDAs or confidentiality clauses. How do you see this practice? It is more difficult to protect know-how in China?
Well, obviously, it's more difficult to keep something protected. Like Coca-Cola is the prime example of a company being able to do that. At the same time, if you have those three ways to protect it, like physical protection, technological protection, and contractual protection, you could be able to keep something as a trade secret. But then if the trade secret, let's say, is in your product and you put your product on the market, then because reverse engineering is completely legal in China, if someone figures out how you did it, then it's knowledge that is disclosed, so then it cannot be protected anymore. So obviously, if you have something that you think will come out anyways, just in due time, then it might be better to get a patent, because that's 10 to 20 years protection. And if you have something that you can believe you can keep secret and safe for longer than 20 years, then it might be well worth your time to do that through know-how protection.
Thank you.
Yeah, about this question, I have something to say. I agree with Mr. Malenstein. It's better way to file a patent in China, because if you want to protect the trade secret, it's very difficult to get evidence. Because if you want to have some support from the Gong'an system, is very, very difficult. If you have to file a criminal case, so that does make things difficult. Yeah, it's better to file the patent.
Thank you for adding this, Ms. Han. So we have another question from this lady, Nicola Dierks. How much more difficult is it for foreign European companies to get IP rights? Is there an extra level of difficulty for European companies or foreign companies?
The law on IP is the same as for Chinese, so there's no difference. difference there.
No difference. Okay, thank you. Mr. Algimantas Casas also is asking if there is a reference hourly rate for IP services in China.
Yes, official rates for registration of IP with the China Trademark Office and with the Patent Office. So these are the official filing rates, and then there's the rates of the law firm that would be a bit extra than on top of that.
So we have here one final question from Jing Chen, which I believe is a continuation of the question already asked. This person is asking, do you mean that if we have a no reverse engineering clause, it would not be valid in China?
Well, that's something that you would do contractually. So for that, if you go deeper into trade secret protection, it would be better to have like a conversation on this to see what it actually is and how to protect it.
Okay, I understand. A more this would go on a more case by case basis, right? So I don't think we have any further questions right now, and we are also reaching our finishing time. So I would like to thank all of our three speakers for today. Thank you very much for cooperating with ENRICH in China, and for giving us your time to also share some knowledge within our network about the IP issues in connection between Europe and China. I would also just remind our attendees that if you'd like to get in contact with us, or if you have any additional questions to our speakers, you can get in contact with us through the address that is appearing on your screen now, china@enrichcenters.eu, and we will be glad to put you in contact with our speakers and to provide you with any further information that you would like to receive. So once again, thank you everyone for attending. Thank you so much to our speakers, and see you next time on one of our ENRICH in China webinars, and we look forward to keep our cooperation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Bye.